Okay. In our last class, we looked at word classes, different parts of speech, and how to identify them. But towards the end of the class, we realized that we have word classes divided into two. We have open class words and closed class words. And we stated that open class words are noun, verb, adverb, and adjective, while closed class words are pronoun, preposition, conjunction, and determiner. And realize that each of them has its characteristics. Open class words have meaning in them. That is, once you mention them, they suggest meaning. Number two, they are not limited in number. They keep increasing due to the usage of language in different locations, different environments, and different era. And also they are called lexical words. But in the case of closed class words, they do not have internal meaning. They only perform grammatical functions. And they are limited in number. They're also called functional words. Our business today is to look at relationship among words. Because in grammar, we don't just use word for using sake. We need to understand their nature and their peculiarity and usage. I can say that the word is both structural and semantic entity in the language system. When you pick a word, that word has a structural quality, has a structural peculiarity. That is where the word can occur in relation to another word. Because a word cannot just be everywhere. A word cannot just be on its own without having any interaction or relationship with other words. So it's a structural entity. If you have a phrase, in that phrase, you should know what will be the pre-modifier, head word, and post-modifier. In the case of pre-modifier, which word can be there? Which word can function as the head word, while which one can function as post-modifier? Based on the peculiarities of each of the phrases. If you have a sentence, there are some words that can occupy the subject constituents. Within the predicate constituents, some can function as predicator, some as object, not just objects, some as direct or indirect objects, some as complement, subject complement, object complement, adverbial complement. While there are some that will just function on their own as adverbial. So each of them has a relationship of structure. The number two, we mentioned that they are both structural and semantic entity in language. That is, each word has its own meaning peculiarity. For those that do not have their own personal meaning, they contribute to the meaning of another word. And that's the reason when you construct your phrases, clauses, and sentences, each word in that structure has something to contribute in terms of the structural position where it can occur. The number two, in terms of meaning capacity, how it can contribute to the meaning of such phrase, clause, or sentences. So we mentioned earlier that the word is a unit of grammar. And word as a unit of grammar has or portrays paradigmatic and syntagmatic relationships. The word as a unit of grammar has paradigmatic and syntagmatic relationship among them. What do we mean by paradigmatic relationship? This is a relationship of paradigm. It's a relationship of choice among lexical items that belong to the same category. Relationship of choice among lexical items that belong to the same category. That is, those lexical items must belong to the same word class. It may be noun, it may be verb, it may be adverb, it may be adjective. Among this list of adjectives, which one is most appropriate? Among this list of nouns, which one is the most appropriate to be chosen? So all of them must belong to the same class. They must be among the same lexical items. But in case of syntagmatic, when we talk about syntagmatic relationship, we are talking about syntactic relationship. It's a relationship of structure among lexical items of different categories that can co-occur in a sentence. You know, if you are to have a noun phrase, there are some linguistic elements that you may need to bring together. You know, in that place, you may have article, you may have adjective, and noun itself. You will realize that article, adjective, and noun can co-occur in the structure of a phrase to form a noun phrase, which may function as either the subject or the object of the verb in the sentence. So syntagmatic relationship has to do with relationship of structure among different lexical items that can co-occur, they can go together. They have a kind of relationship and connectivity that can allow them to go together. So you see that we have both paradigmatic relationship and syntagmatic relationship in the use of various word classes. Now, starting with paradigmatic relationship, this is just to show you that you don't just make a choice. There is a reason for choosing a particular word. There is a reason for connecting your ideas in a particular manner. So we can say that paradigm is a system showing a word in all its forms. That this particular word has different forms. And lexical meaning of such word is the same throughout its form. Look at the examples we have below. Like that, the word lady has different forms. We have lady, singular form, ladies, which is plural form, ladies, singular possessive, and ladies, plural possessive. These are different forms of this single word, lady. And that's what this place says. It shows a word in all its forms. But it's also mentioned that the lexical meaning of a word is the same thing throughout its form. That is, the meaning of lady in singular noun is the same meaning of lady in plural. It's only that it's more than one. Lady is lady. Possessive singular, possessive plural, lady is lady. It's only that something might have been added, but the meaning of lady does not change in all these usages. We are talking about mature human female, adult female human, who occupies a particular important post in society. Looking at child has a form, children, the plural form, child, singular possessive, children's plural possessive. But the meaning is that we are talking about young human being, either of male or female, which has not reached the age of maturity. So you know that the meaning in each of them remains the same, but the form may be different. So all the words forms of one and the same word are lexical identical. So which means that here we have lexical identical of lady, ladies, ladies, ladies. They are all lexical identical. And all of them are talking about the female adults. White child, children, children, child's, children. Talking about young human who has not reached the age of maturity. So all the forms are the lexical identical. But their grammatical meaning varies. That's what we are talking about. Their grammatical meaning varies from one form to another. That is, where you can use lady, the meaning it derives not from where you can use ladies, but all of them are talking about adults, human. Where ladies can function in the structure of sentence is different from where ladies, the plural form, can function. So in making the choice, you need to choose appropriate form that will have the meaning that could be carried to a particular place in the structure of a sentence. And that choice is crucial. When we are looking at the verb form, the verb has 5 forms. We have speak, speaks, speaking, spoke, and spoken. You see all these forms. This is the base form, which we use with the plural noun, plural subject. This is third person singular form, which we use with the singular form of subject. Speaking, showing the possessive. Spoke, past, and spoken, participle. In all these, all of them, or the general meaning has to do with making an utterance. But in their function, they're a bit different. And these are different forms of the verb speak. And when you need to make a choice, you are expected to make the appropriate choice. Since we have eats, eating, eats, eating. Run, runs, running, run, run. Write, write, writing, wrote, and written. You see that all these forms are lexically identical. They belong to different paradigms. And their lexical meaning is the same, like we said earlier, but their grammatical meaning differs because of their various forms. We have lexical meaning, that is the meaning that that word has naturally. Once you mention the word, the meaning comes. That's a natural, lexical meaning is a natural meaning. But grammatical meaning is a meaning according to usage, where speak will function, speaks may not be able to function, or speaking might not be. So the meaning of speaks different from speaks, different from speaking, different from spoke, different from spoken. That one is grammatical meaning. It's different from the general meaning of the word, which is the called lexical meaning. And we state here that the grammatical meaning differs because of their different various forms. So we say on the one hand here, paradigm is described as a form of one word, which reflects the relationship between them. That once you see this form, show that all of them belong to the same class, but their usage may be different. And we could use that form as the abstract entity. That once you mention that particular word, what image comes to your mind? If you are talking about ladies, you know we are talking about lady generally. Female human adults of social status. And it may occur in any of the forms we mentioned earlier. And those patterns will show different forms. They help us to distinguish one part of speech from another. In case of noun, the paradigm is distinguished by the use of S for plural form, S for singular possessive, you can see with apostrophe before it, S with apostrophe after it for plural possessive. But in the case of verb, we have S, we start for third person singular, which could be added to a word, ed, past form, ed2, participle, and ing, possessive. So all these could be added to certain words to show their paradigm, different forms from which a choice can be made. Because when you choose a one with S, a place where a one with S, which is a plural form and now can occupy, the singular form cannot occupy the same position. And singular possessive may not be able to occupy than plural possessive. The same thing with the verb. If the verb has to be the same third person singular form with S here, the one in base form, which we use the plural subject, may not be able to occur in that position. So you need to make appropriate choice because that choice is crucial in your construction. Failure to make appropriate choice, the writing will have a problem and the sentence may not be well constructed. So going further, we said that paradigmatic relationship is relationship between grammatical elements that belong to the same word class within a system, like I said earlier. And they reflect semantic choice available in a particular structure. It presents semantic choice available in a particular structure in a sentence. For instance, look at this. I need a dash of water. I need a dash of water. The space here, there are some elements that can occupy there. Whatever we occupy here must be a noun, number one. And that noun has to be in the singular form. So it can mean that a noun in plural form cannot occupy here. A noun in possessive form cannot occupy here. And among the noun, all these are nouns. All of them are in singular forms. Then we have several choices. We have a cup, glass, bottle, gallon, tanker. Meaning that a cup of water can occupy here, but a corpse cannot occupy there. A glass of water can occupy, but not a glasses. A bottle of water can occupy here, not a bottles. A gallon can occupy here, not a gallons. A tanker can occupy here, not tankers, because of the presence of this. All the elements here determines the choice of the element to be made from that particular word class. And each of them has its own form, as we said earlier. Cups, plural, cups, singular possessive, cups, plural possessive, with application of apostrophe at the right location. So like I said, that the choice to be made here in the space must be a noun in a singular form. If it is not a noun, it cannot work. And if that noun is not in the singular form, it may not also work. It has to be a noun, which means any of the elements we have there can actually occupy the space provided here. Can occupy the space provided here. So you can make your choice from any of them to fill that space. But in the singular possessive, the plural possessive form, those elements may not be appropriate. Let's also look here. In the case of a verb, I dash a bottle of water. Remember that we said that a form out of different forms must be appropriate. Likewise, we have. You can have, I have a bottle of water, but you cannot have, I has. I had may be both, but in this case, have, because of tense, have will function, but has will not function. I need a bottle of water, not needs. Needs will not work. I drink a bottle of water, not drinks. I buy, not buys. I find, not finds. So in this choice, it shows that any element that will occupy this position must be a verb in its base form. Must be a verb in its base form. If it's not in the base form, it may not be able to fit in properly. And any of the elements in the paradigm above could occupy the position. I have a bottle of water. I need a bottle of water. I drink a bottle of water. I buy a bottle of water. I find a bottle of water. In that place, any of the elements could be chosen to occupy the space to complete expression. But the element outside this form may not be appropriate in that context. So that's that. Well, we'll now move to syntagmatic relationship. Syntagmatic relationship. The syntagmatic relationship will also be referred to as lexical grammar. That is, relationship between lexical item and grammar. The use of each word class in a grammatical form to know their position. I will say that it is relationship among items that occur within the same sentence. Items that occur within the same sentence. And that's the first thing you need to understand. The items occur within the same sentence. Particularly those that stand in an intimate syntactic relationship. They have intimate syntactic relationship. That is, they have relationship of co-occurrence. They can relate, they connect, they complement each other, they can go together. And that's why you look at sentence construction, which is the base of syntax. We know that we bring the elements that agree, they can go together. So we can see that the syntagmatic relationship is a relationship of co-occurrence. Relationship of co-occurrence. And relationship of lexical items that can co-occur, as I stated earlier, in a structure such as phrase, clause, and sentence. And this relationship focuses on relationship between lexical words, like we mentioned earlier, which are noun, verb, adverb, and adjective, and grammatical words, such as preposition, conjunction, pronoun, and determiner. Realize that in your sentence construction, you must use the lexical word alongside grammatical word. If you don't, there will be an issue. You will not be able to make any meaning. So, syntagmatic relationship observes relationship between lexical words and grammatical words on the one hand. But on the other hand, it also studies relationship between lexical words, such as noun and adjective, verb and adverb, noun and verb, adjective and adverb. You can see it now. A study relationship between lexical word and grammatical word. Beyond that, it's also study relationship between lexical words, because there are some lexical words that can co-occur. They connect, they relate. Example, we mentioned noun and adjective. You know the duty of adjective is to modify a noun. Or have you seen an adjective that modifies an adverb? Or an adjective that modifies a verb? No. An adjective must go with a noun, modify it. Verb and adverb. The main function of adverb is to modify verb. Also, noun and verb, they go together in agreements. Adjective and adverb. We realize that there are some adverb that modifies certain adjectives. So they have that relationship of unity, meaning that they must connect, they must relate, they must go together in their usage. So we state that for a syntactic unit to make sense, we need to examine semantic potential of both lexical and grammatical words so that we can understand their internal relationship. The semantic potential is that the meaning of lexical item and the grammatical word that is actually there, what meaning can it contribute to the structure? Despite that I perform the grammatical functions, these functions also contribute to the meaning of the structure. And both of them will help to establish internal relationship. among the items in the structure of a phrase, a clause, or a sentence. And if you arrange word in a way that do not make sense, there will be a problem. And that's why the reason Chomsky made an example of a word that has syntactic relationship but lacks semantic potential. He gave the popular example that we still refer to. Colorless green ideas slay furiously. Looking at that, you realize that the syntactic connectivity does not portray semantic potentiality, because colorless, something cannot be green and be colorless at the same time. Colorless green ideas slay furiously. So you cannot have colorless and green. There is a contradiction. Idea can neither be colorless nor green. That's one. Number two. Number three, ideas do not sleep. Ideas do not sleep. Number four, when you are sleeping, you don't sleep furiously. No, when you are furious, you are filled with anger, energy, resentment. You cannot be sleeping and be full of that, except you are experiencing some nightmare. Some things are pursuing your dream, and that's how you can wake up sweating, being furious. But sleeping is not done furiously. So that's the reason that says something, that when you are talking about syntax, syntax is a bit deeper than what we call it to be. There are some intricacies. There are some peculiarities of what we need to understand when we are talking about syntax. And I quote Dancy 2004, page 231 here. We said that syntax includes not only word order in a sentence in a language, but also the internal organization of the words, showing how the choice of one item influences the choice of the forms of the other words in a sentence. That is, the relationships that bind the words together to form an acceptable sentence. Let's look at it this way. The syntax is not just word order in a language, because every language has its own word order, the system of grammar. But syntax has to do with internal organization of words. Internal. It shows how the choice of one item influences the choice of the forms of the other words in the sentence. Wait here. If you look at what we did earlier here, I hope you are with me. The choice of one item influences the choice of the form of the other item. Because A was chosen, A is a word that has been chosen here. Why don't we choose an? If an has been chosen, that would be another thing. But A of the two was chosen. The choice of this A item influences the choice of the element to be chosen here. If A was not chosen, we could have chosen the form of the word with S, like we have in the examples here. We could have chosen something like in plural form, singular possessive, plural possessive. But because that choice was made here, hey, we cannot talk about cups. We cannot talk about glasses. It influences the choice of the form of the word. And these are different forms of a noun. And looking at the case of the verb, because I was chosen as a subject in this sentence, we cannot choose as. We cannot use needs, drinks. The choice of word influences the choice of the form. And this word have as add as its different forms. Because of this choice, we need to stick to have and do away with the other form. That's how the choice of one form influences the choice of the form of another word. Not just the choice of another word, that another word, which of the forms, like we mentioned earlier, are we supposed to choose? So that's one of the points made by Darcy. And the choice, how the choice of one item influences the choice of the forms of other words in the sentence. That is, relationship that binds words together to form acceptable sentence. And if you don't look at that relationship, you may not get the message, the structure that you expected to get. Look here, for instance, I place some examples. We have a careful driver drove the car along the street. A careful driver drove the car along the street. That's number one. Number two, the blind driver rode a car along the street. The blind driver rode a car along the street. Number three, the trained driver drove a car along the street. The trained driver drove a car along the street. And number four, we have the curious driver drove the car across the parlor. The curious driver drove the car across the parlor. And number five, a reckless driver drove the car across the road. A reckless driver drove the car across the road. So looking at this, you will realize that in the first option, this is still as acceptable. We can see a careful driver drove the car along the streets, because a driver can be careful. And car is meant to be driven. Driving can be along the streets. Look at the second one. The blind driver rode a car along the street. Number one, a driver cannot be blind. Hello, are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you
Very well,
seen?
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Have you
Yes,
seen a blind driver? Has anyone seen a blind driver before?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Only in
Okay.
Indian movies, sir. Only in Indian movies.
Even in India movie, how can a driver be blind?
In anime.
It's
It happens.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with you, because you know more than I do. So whoever, maybe you can employ that driver to be your driver. So
Driver.
to me, a blind, I've heard that I boarded the vehicle driven by a deaf and dumb. Is the conductor that is actually knows how to communicate the guy. If you don't talk on time, we carry you beyond your bus stop. So a driver is not supposed to be blind. Blind and driver. Blind as an adjective is not supposed to modify the noun driver. Despite that, there must be a relationship between an adjective and a noun. This is not the appropriate adjective for a noun that has the personality of driving. That's number one. Number two, driver does not roll a car. A driver does not roll, a driver drives. Number three, a car is not meant to be rolled. It's meant to be driven. You can see that this is not acceptable. And that's the reason with asterisk sheets. The third one, the train driver drove a car along the street. Sure, a driver is supposed to be trained and certified with driver's license. And because you are a train driver, you can drive. And when you are driving, you drive a car or any vehicle, you can drive along the street, which is possible. But look at the number 4. The curious driver drove the car across the parlor. Number 1, a driver is not supposed to be curious. So where is he rushing to? Being curious disqualifies the quality of driver. That driver is not patient. Because I say a patient driver, but curious may quickly easily end up in accidents. The driver is not supposed to be curious. Can drive a car, as a driver can drive a car, but can we drive a car across the parlor? Hello?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Can we drive a car across the parlor?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir. No,
What
sir.
of those American films?
And that is American. Yes, sir.
That they will be driving, for example, fast and furious.
That's serious, sir.
That will drive from one room to another.
No, sir.
We know that that's not the reality. Okay, let's come back. So, a car is not meant to be driven across the parlor, except when you are playing with a toy car. The last one, a reckless driver drove the car across the road. Here, we have reckless drivers. But the way they drove the car may harm the peace, may cause danger to the members of society. A driver can be reckless. And one such driver can create accidents. So if you're looking at that relationship in the first, third, and fifth sentences, they're acceptable. Why those in the second and fourth, which is the blind and curious driver, they are not acceptable. So what we need to note here is that the choice of one item influences the choice of the form of other items. Influencing the choice of the form of other items in the structure. And that's very crucial. So let's take any question that we may have. Any question?
Sorry, sir. Good evening, sir. Please, sir, we don't know if we can get the material, like this material to study.
This one we are using?
Yes, sir.
The lectures are being recorded. I will work on them and put them on the YouTube. So
Okay,
that
sir.
anybody can go there at any time and learn and study.
Thank
With
you.
students. Thank you. Aside that, any other question? Let's look at if there's any other question. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? So that's
Dr. Johnson asked a question.
okay. Go ahead.
So, from the examples you gave, can we say that syntactic syntagmatic relationship is also meaning relationship? Like,
Can we say that what?
Can we say that syntagmatic relationship is also
Relationship.
it's also meaning relationship, and the relationship between the meaning of words and now they're able to be used together. That will make sense. Can we say that?
What I can say is that it's not about co-occurrence. It must be the word that can go together. By the time you do semantics, you also learn something in relation to that collocation. Something is called collocation in semantics, and that is what is applicable in syntactic also. the word that have meaning relation. So if syntax does not go with meaning, it's not syntactic. That's the problem we have in number 2 and number 4. They have meaning problem. So whatever will be syntactically correct must be semantically correct. Whatever will be syntactically correct must be semantically correct at the same time. So they have relationship of meaning. The word that relates one with another. And their meaning must also connect. Their meaning must connect before they can go together to form a unit of meaning, which we call sentence. So that's that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Good afternoon, sir. I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. So my question is that if syntax can take us this far in terms of monitoring the meaning of sentences, then what is the essence of semantics?
You will go further. Because semantics itself is very complex. If in your year 3, year 4, they introduce you to some aspect of semantics, you cannot explore it finish. Semantics is deep. Each of these fields of study in linguistics, each of them is very deep. But I'm happy that you are doing a course like this, that will help you to explore grammar fully. But semantics, each word has its own semantic properties. That's very complex. And don't worry, you will survive all of them. Because you may not need to go that deep, except you want to focus your research on some deeper aspect of this work, maybe at master's or PhD level. So you have a lot to learn. And the better you learn them and excel. The better you learn them and excel. So that's that. Any other question?
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
thank you
Good
very
evening,
much,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Who is giving floor for who? Okay.
Yeah. So I have a question, sir.
Okay.
So I want to ask these collocations, paradigmatic relationships, syntagmatic, how do they contribute to meaning making in non-linear texts such as poetry, visual media, where the conventional structure and syntactic rules?
If you look at poem, the poem has its own structure. It's either you are writing in phrases or clauses. You cannot arrange poem haphazardly. So they are there. The choice of what you make has to do with paradigmatic. If you are writing a poem on fear of tomorrow, fear, 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 why do you confront me? Why do you choose fear? Why don't you choose afraid? At least they have meaning relationship now, or don't they? Fear and afraid have meaning relationship. So why do you choose fear? Why do you keep using that fear about 3 times? I now say, why do you confront me? Why don't you say, confront me, you, why? In poetry, you observe syntactic relationship in terms of arrangement of word. As small as these are primary rhyme is, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Look at that word. The first line is a noun phrase. Twinkle is an adjective. Twinkle is repeated. Little is an adjective. Star is a noun. And that's the noun head of that phrase. If you look at that, so you have a pre-modifier, twinkle, twinkle, little. And the head word, which is the phrase, noun, star. And if you go on like that, you'll see the syntactic structure of those things. And paradigm has to do with the choice of word in order to convey the meaning that the writer, why don't the writers choose twinkle and not just shiny, shiny, small star? At least twinkle has a relationship with shine. Little has a relationship with small. So all of them are applicable. And that's the reason we said that language is the tool that help the literary writer to express their idea, their thoughts, their intention. Without the knowledge of language, a literary writer may not be able to produce a meaningful and quality work. And that's the reason language is crucial, even in literary studies. And we can pick a literary text and analyze it with linguistic elements. Some people have analyzed poems using syntax. Some have analyzed poems using phonology. Some have analyzed poems using morphology, bringing different morphemes, how the morpheme contribute to the meaning that the poet intends to achieve, to project in society and the rest. And some have used semantics or pragmatics to analyze poems. So grammar is crucial in all this. Thank you. King Lear. So King Lear has a question for us. Is King Lear still available? Okay, you raise your hand and you disappear from the scene. I think the lady that has a question earlier, that I want to ask a question earlier, she can ask her question now. Hello, are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That lady should ask her question. I think two of them try to speak at the same time. Or has the question been attended to? So any other question? Any other question? Any other question? Because I won't like to overburden you. I know we have gone through a lot in this little period we spent together. It may look so simple. So any other question concerning the relationship of words? Remember, we said that some relationship, syntagmatic is also relationship between lexical items. And also some relationship between lexical items and grammatical items. So note that, and has to do with paradigmatic relationship. It's a relationship of choice. You have a list of items. You choose one out of them. But syntagmatic, you are looking for a relationship of someone that can go with you, that can move alongside you in order to achieve your goal or purpose. So any question?